Hide and Seek, The Lights, by Painted Blood, narrated by Zach Levitan. Hide and Seek is supposed to be a simple and fun game. It doesn't matter what age you are, because there's something thrilling about hiding and trying to hold back giggles as the seeker tries to find you. It is an innocent game through and through. At least, that's what I thought for the longest time. My opinion changed so quickly one dark evening. No, this isn't about one of those hide-and-seek rituals that you can do in order to summon something paranormal. No, this is a lot more real and a lot more terrifying. I have two incredibly close friends who I'm so ridiculously grateful to have in my life. In a short amount of time, us three have become close and for the most part inseparable. We hang out often, for hours on end, doing whatever typical young adults do. We all share a passion for video games, card games, music, and adventure. Being the token girl in our group, I feel obligated to let it be known that I'm pretty much one of the guys. We all have a good time together, no matter what we do. Which leads me to my story. That happened 2 weeks ago on a cool, damp Saturday night. After a few drinks and card games, we all decided to go for an adventure. It must have been around 11 in the evening when we left my friend's house, his dogs whining at the door as it closed behind us. The night was a pleasant one. Hell, any night that can provide a break from the blistering summer heat was pleasant. It had rained earlier in the evening, giving the fried yellow grass a dewy shimmer. After lighting our cigarettes, we happily walked down the alley, a destination already in mind. Close by, only a few blocks up a slanted street, was a park. It had some playground equipment, a swing set, benches, and what appeared to be an outdoor rink of sorts. Despite being in the middle of a small city, the park was fairly secluded, perched on top of a hill with tall trees and bushes surrounding it, which meant it was a perfect little spot for our less-than-sober adventure to really begin. We all chatted on the short walk up the sloping street, our voices being the only break in the silence in the night. Nothing seemed wrong, nothing seemed out of place as we walked. It was just a normal evening. Within a few minutes, we were walking up the grassy hill leading into the park. Before we began our game, being the grown adults we are, we had to play on the swing set and equipment, climbing around, hooting and hollering into the dark night, not a care in the world. Once we had our fun, it was time to begin the main event, hide and seek. "Dibs out on seeking first," I shouted, as the guys both shot me a glance that made me laugh. Hide and seek has always been one of my favorite games. Fine, well, Riley can seek first. My friend, Chris, volunteers our friend. "Hey, what? Why?" Riley says with a laugh, as Chris and I grin. "Suck it up, Buttercup," I tease, taking a glance around the area. "Go count on the other side of those pine trees." "Give us 2 minutes to hide," Chris adds on. 1 minute. "No, Riley. 2. Fine, Riley sighs, feigning annoyance as he leisurely began to walk away from us, already beginning the countdown. I grin, waving to Chris while darting in the opposite direction. I had seen what I hoped would be a good hiding spot. Not too far away from the playground equipment was what appeared to be a supply building, with large, winding bushes crammed beside it. It was dark, and if you were to walk past it without a light, which none of us had considering our phones were all dead, you would never be able to see anybody. I could hear sand crunching behind me, and I glanced over my shoulder while approaching the bushes, in time to see Chris slide under a toddler section in the park. It was a good spot, but I knew mine would be better. Ducking my head, I entered the bushes, all while praying there wouldn't be many bugs. I should have been praying for our safety instead. Blindly stepping into the bushes, I used the side of the building to guide myself further into the darkness before finding a spot to sit down. Double-checking my spot, I absent-mindedly began to play with the twigs by my legs, hearing Riley begin his hunt. There was a grin on my face already as I heard his footsteps pass by the bushes. I couldn't see anything but a small bit of the dull orange light on the building, struggling to break through the darkness of the foliage. I had a feeling this was going to be a long round, especially considering all the drinks we've had prior to this. Stretching my legs out, slowly and carefully, I wouldn't disturb the silence, I waited for my eyes to adjust to the dark. The minutes ticked by, and I was wondering if Riley had managed to find Chris yet. Shivering, I felt a leaf tickle the back of my neck as I strained to listen for any unnatural sounds. Reaching back, I rubbed the tickle away, chewing on the inside of my lip. I continued to wait, growing more and more irritated by the twigs, branches, and leaves tickling my bare neck and arms. There hadn't been any sounds at all, for what felt like hours, when in reality, it must have only been 15 minutes. The park wasn't that big, but I was growing impatient. Sitting up a bit straighter, I strained to peer through the thick leaves that blocked my view of the park. Frowning a bit, I sat back and waited for around 5 more minutes. I was getting chilly. Wearing a t-shirt was a good idea during the day. That, and my skin was crawling, my paranoia about bugs making me imagine they were everywhere. Just as I was about to get up and move from my spot, I heard a twig snap from behind me, the leaves rustling and what now sounded like footsteps. Freezing in my spot, a grin appeared on my face as I listened, hoping my breathing wouldn't give me away. It grew quiet once again, and after about 30 seconds, I started to feel nervous. The sound stopped behind me, on the other side of the bushes, but I didn't hear any footsteps leading away. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, feeling like I was being watched. Before we left Riley's house, we agreed that the seeker had to say our name if they saw us, but there wasn't anything, just darkness, silence and panic growing inside of my chest. I didn't realize I had been holding my breath until I saw the light of his cell phone turn on, illuminating the clusters of leaves. I exhaled, relaxing again, as I realized Riley was probably turning on his cell phone's flashlight. It was dark after all. There would be no way you could have seen me without a light source. The light seemed to move a little bit as I watched the small fractions of light dance off the building's wall, which was no more than 2 feet away from me. A grin appeared on my face, thinking that Riley couldn't see me. "Chris, I found you!" I swear my heart stopped, my eyes still looking at the light on the wall. "Damn it, you walked past me so many times. Have you found Raven yet?" The light on the wall didn't move, but my heart seemed to have been kick-started as it was beating incredibly fast. The realization came to me in waves, drowning me in an agonizingly slow manner. We left our phones at Riley's, all of them dead. I could hear Riley and Chris chatting in the far distance, their voices growing further and further away. There was somebody less than 2 feet away from me, and they knew where I was. The light turned off, and I was encased in darkness once again. A loud yell broke through the silence, and I flinched, my arm hitting one of the branches, causing a small section of the bush to shake. I barely had time to react when I felt ice-cold fingers grab at me, the nail sharp, cutting into the skin on my arms with ease. I let out a shrill shriek, lurking forwards in an attempt to run away. I could hear the guys yelling in the distance, though it was muffled and seemed to be growing more and more urgent. Whoever, whatever, was there, came with a partner, obviously. Bony fingers grabbed at my legs when I stood up, pulling me back to the ground. I felt winded as my chest slammed into a large rock, but the pain in my legs distracted me. I kicked my feet as hard and as frantically as I could. Tears were clouding my already limited vision as I clawed at the ground, trying to get some leverage. With some stroke of luck, I was able to kick myself free of the bony fingers, scurrying to my feet as I ran out of the bushes, into the dimly lit park. I could feel the blood stream down my arms, my chest aching while my pant legs were slowly absorbing blood from the cuts on my legs. I nearly slipped on the wet grass as I saw 2 figures dart out from behind a building near the rink, until I realized, with a surge of joy, it was Chris and Riley, my best friends. We nearly collided with each other, and I could see similar wounds on both of them. Bloody, covered in dirt, out of breath, we all looked at each other in horror before remembering why we were running. I could hear rapid footsteps from the other side of the building. It almost sounded like there were 6 separate sets. I sucked in some air, eyes wide with fear as we all began to run towards the pine trees, towards the street light, and the street itself. We slid down the wet grass of the hill, struggling to keep our balance as we hit the pavement of the road. I risked a glance back, though now I really wish I didn't.